Here to share how she gets it done, please welcome Hearst Magazine's Chief Content Officer, Kate Lewis, in conversation with The Cut's Stella Bugbee.
Come on over, down to the corner, my sisters and my brothers of every different color, don't you feel that sunshine? Telling you to hold tight, things will be alright, trying to find a better life. Come on over.
Hi. Hi. I'm Stella, this is Kate. Today we are going to take an editorial franchise that we run on The Cut called How I Get It Done and do a live version of that, which is something that we do anyway, but this is a special edition for you guys. Normally we don't focus so much on magazines or editorial, but given the audience, I thought we might ask a couple questions. Yeah. So the series is not just about, a powerful boss woman getting things done. It's about the truth about the nitty-gritty, about management and ambition and failure to do everything that we need to do in a day. So Kate and I were talking about how she doesn't get it all done.
Yeah, Stella clarified that it's not how I get it all done. It's just how I get it done.
How I get it done, whatever
so
it
that
is.
felt better to me.
In addition to it being a very, very popular series that we do on The Cut, it's also a podcast that we have on Thursdays, and it will be a full-day event in March, which we're looking forward to.
Is that your first time doing it as a full-day event?
It is our first time doing a full-time event. Yeah. It has an all-star lineup. I'm very excited. You can go to howigetitdone.com to see. So we're going to start off by sort of your early morning routine. What do you read in the morning? It's like the first thing that you ingest.
I mean, if I'm being honest, the first thing I look at is Instagram. But then I do read things too. I don't just look at things. I read the New York Times, and I have one of the women who works in HR at Hearst turned me on to a thing called Media Star, which is a newsletter, which for this room would be great, and it just tells you all the gossip in media from the day before, so it's just a links list. I'm addicted to that. That's the second thing I do, sometimes even before Instagram. It comes out at 6 a.m., so it depends how early I'm up. I look at the Times. I look at Brian Stelter some mornings. That's sort of my habits.
Do you pick up a magazine?
I do not pick up a magazine. I don't know.
So are you lying in bed, looking at your phone, or are you on a laptop?
No, these are things that are usually happening on the subway. So I'm on a subway phone situation. Okay. First thing lying in bed, I'll look at Instagram.
Well, while we're on the topic of Instagram.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the basis for so many stories these days.
Yes.
If you had to give up a social media, which social media would you give up?
In truth, the only one I really use is Instagram. I read Twitter, so I read Twitter for the news, so I'll do that, but not usually in the morning because people haven't said anything interesting yet. I'll do it at night. But what I like about Instagram is not only that it now is a news source for me and that I love pretty pictures, but also I get to be creative on it, which is fun for me. So I don't post on any other platforms so much, but I do post. I love Instagram stories. I travel a lot for work and for fun, and I like to craft travel little journeys there.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So you oversee a large organization, obviously.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about how you manage your managers.
Yes. So I try to manage with compassion. It's something I've thought a lot about because I think often people who seem optimistic and even smiley, which is just my general nature, are perceived of as not being gritty or tough enough to manage, and I really want to fly in the face of that. So to me, having an understanding of what the challenge is and what the fun is for my people feels really important, and I hope that I'm pretty good at that. But the other thing that feels critical to management with such a big organization is to be decisive. I just really value that, not just in myself, but in other people. We don't have time to waffle. Things are happening fast, and there are so many things that, we just, not all decisions are good decisions, but to sort of go in a direction feels like always the better path. And when I am waffling, I love that there are so many people around me that I can talk things through with to come to a decision.
Do your managers ever come to you and ask you for advice about how to deal with,
Yes,
like,
a lot.
let's say, Gen Z people or millennials? Like, is that something that you...
No, and I actually really don't believe the whole millennials are hard to manage thing. I think that's hogwash. The majority of people who work for me are millennials, and they are the most ambitious people I have ever met, which I really value in a human. And also, to be honest, they've been extraordinarily loyal to Hearst. So I hear a lot the sort of the thought that millennials are loyal only to themselves, and I have not seen that so much. Gen Z is a different story. I have 2 Gen Z children, and I am doing a poor job of managing them. So I can give you no advice there. I think they are managing themselves beautifully, so I just sit back.
So is there an example of a situation where someone has come to you in an editorial capacity and said, like, I have this editorial problem, like, how do I deal with it?
Yes.
Can you share one?
I'm trying to think of one that doesn't expose all of our backs and forths. Yeah, I mean, actually, even just today, we were, my deputy, Brooke Siegel, who's a genius, we were talking about people we work with that are better and smarter than us, and she's certainly that. She was talking to me about she really manages our digital operation now, and living in an age of SEO, and how it's really, really easy now to just write for the search term. And that if you, and we're quite good at it at Hearst, and if you do that, then you can walk away from inspiration. And though I think our teams still do focus on inspiration, it's not habitual. And so we were talking about how do you reignite that habit? How do you marry the thing of just like, this is cool versus this is necessary, and make them both daily and habitual? And so those are the kinds of things that we puzzle out. How do we inspire teams both ways? Because one has metrics attached and the other just has, delight attached, which is hard to measure.
How do you balance those things?
I mean, I think the thing that you do is you look for them and you applaud it, right? Like if management is saying only congratulations for the numbers, then you're only going to get the numbers. But if management is saying congratulations for this delightful story I came across today that made me feel something, then people will. And so the onus is in some measure on us to continue to give that kind of feedback, even though we also are proud of and delight in the SEO terms and the way that they can bring inspiration to SEO, that there just has to be thought, there has to be thoughtfulness and appreciation of all.
What do you find is the best way to communicate that you are happy about a piece? Like, let's say you did come across something that you were like, made you laugh out loud, or you wanted to share. How would you communicate that to the writer or the editor or the leader?
I'm a big user of Slack, so I would probably Slack them the link and then pull out a little part of it that made me particularly happy. I was actually just doing that this morning with the woman who's the executive editor of Elle Print, and she was sending me a piece she was working on and asking me about it, and I was like, this part really spoke to me, and just highlighted this little sentence. I don't think, she's not looking for me to edit her, so I don't need to give her anything more than that, just to say, this is what I came away with. Nice. Yeah, it's nice. I don't get to do that as much as I would want to, because it's hard to read all the things.
Yeah, how do you decide what to read?
All the things.
Well, wait, back up.
Yeah.
You guys publish how many pieces every day?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Thousands?
We publish 500 pieces of content a day online probably, and then there's 25 print magazines pretty much every month. So I can absolutely not keep on top of it, and I do encourage people to send me things they're proud of. So that's one way that I see things, because I can always see the news that spikes or the story that's spiking, but I don't always see the things that are the mid-level players in digital, and so I encourage, or the long-tail players, so I encourage people to send me stuff. And I used to be in the habit of, on the weekend, I would try and go through, a third of the sites on Friday, a third on Saturday, a third on Sunday, but then I felt like that was a little unfair, because then I was emailing everyone on the weekend about how great their stuff was, which isn't really, so I try and kind of go in some cadence of okay, I haven't looked at Elle.com in a week, I need to just kind of dig in.
Talk to me about email.
Yes.
It's something I have a lot of trouble with
managing.
Yes,
I feel better. Thank you, Stella.
27,000 unread emails.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Maybe approaching 30, actually. what do you, like I go about telling people, please don't email me because I probably won't see it. What do you do to kind of manage your email?
I say the same thing. I say, like, if you do email me and I don't respond, you have to email me again. Like, I need a nudge, but I do prefer Slack for that. So I mentioned I travel a lot. This is not a useful trick, but on airplanes, I turn Wi-Fi off, I sort by sender, and I just go through by human. So I'll be like, I'll search all the Stella ones and like deal with poor Stella. Then I get off the plane, and then that person gets like 5,000 emails from me, but that's how I do it.
Are you self-conscious about emailing people at night or on the weekends because you actually feel bad or because you think that they will be resentful of that?
I'm self-conscious about it because I think they will feel like they should respond, and I don't really want them to. So I actually do turn off my email a lot when it's off hours, and then wait for them to send in a normal. So if I'm doing email late at night, I will not send it until the morning.
I've discovered this app, which everybody needs, called Boomerang, which allows you to delay your emails for hours at a time.
Yes. Well, Outlook has
really
that
good.
too. You can program when it's sending. Yeah, it's handy.
So you have 2 kids, which you mentioned.
Yes.
They're high school students?
One's a freshman and the other's in 7th grade.
This isn't really a work-life balance because I don't like that question necessarily, but how do you manage their needs and your needs?
I think I manage their needs relatively poorly, at least that's how I'm feeling right now. I have an extraordinary husband, and so he does manage a lot of their needs, which is like a partnership can be helpful in these things. I also do think my kids are the ultimate city kids. Like, they take the subway and get themselves around, and they do their own stuff. And so I don't know, of late I've been on a tear that our family is not culturally attuned enough. So like, I forced them to go to a museum with me all day on Sunday. And we ended up having a great time despite some complaint on the way. And we went to the Museum of the City of New York, which I highly recommend. It's such a great experience. So I don't know. I don't actually know if I'm managing them well. How do you ever know? I don't think you know. I know that I delight in being with them, except in the morning when they're totally annoying. and I think that for the most part, I sense they delight in being with me, and so we'll just keep that going.
So if they came to you asking for advice,
yes,
what advice would you give them?
I think I would go to them for advice first. One thing I would say to my daughter, who's extremely academic, is that I want her to pursue other passions too. It's so dazzling to me how much she loves school, and I find that surprising, but I think she should be a person who's ready to look for more from life. My son, I might say the reverse too. My son is doing this extraordinary thing right now where he is apprenticing at our auto mechanic, because I think he's going to be like a car guy, which I partly take credit for this. You ask how I manage them, and he really likes cars, and I work on car and driver and road and track as part of and so I have really introduced himself and myself, honestly, into the world of cars, and so I'm delighted to see that flourish in him.
Is he reading the magazine?
Oh, like religiously. Like, when I bring it home, it's like we don't speak for, an hour while he's just like, and, he's memorized all the cars and all the things about them, and I know. See? Gen Z reads magazines.
Yeah, niche interest.
Yeah,
that's
love
the key.
it. Yep.
So what advice would you give your younger self if you could go back?
Okay, so I'm going to steal advice from Oprah, because I just spent 4 days on a cruise with Oprah, which I highly recommend if you have the chance to do. It was with Holland America, and the boat was extraordinary, and the women on the boat were extraordinary. It was an extraordinary experience. And Oprah has a kind of speech that she gives, and one of her pieces of advice, which is very counterintuitive, is to surrender. So if there's something you truly want, like, I want this, and I want it so much, and it's all I can think about, I want it, let it go. And it's like not great advice, because we should be ambitious, and I really believe in ambition, but I think that ambition is like a thread that runs through you. It either does or it doesn't. And I love the idea of just letting it take its course and not. So I loved that, and as I thought about that piece of advice from her, I could see how it had played out in my life, that I sometimes feel that my success is accidental because I didn't overly strategize it. I love that, to not worry, like the journey will happen.
Do you think if you had given yourself that advice when you were younger, you would have taken it?
Maybe. You know, I think having faith in yourself as a young person is hard to achieve, though. There are probably times in my life when I would have been open to it, and other times where I would have been like, I'm going to amount to nothing. What do you mean?
Look at you now.
And here I am.
I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for questions, but I have one last question for you, which is, what's one thing that would surprise everybody in this room that you do every day to get it done?
Okay, so this is my once a week, I write down everything on my to-do list, which is usually like, it's like a full page of 8-point font items. It's a tremendous, overwhelming thing. And then I throw it out. I take the list, I write the whole thing down, and then I just delete it. And I figure whatever I can remember from what I've written down is the thing I really have to do, and everything else is kind of bullshit.
Is it working?
It's so good.
Oh, that's really good advice.
For so long, I didn't you guys do this? Like I had notebooks, and I had downloaded to-do list apps, and like as soon as I wrote everything in them, I was mad at them. You know, so I was like, okay, I'm going to try a new approach, and this has been very effective for me.
I love that.
But if you fall off the list, like, sorry.
Slack you, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Nudge.
We have like a couple minutes left, so I just wanted to see if there was any questions. It's hard to see.
Anything?
No?
You get to ask me one more then.
Oh, all right. Wait, I think I see one.
Oh.
Yeah, you obviously have, thank you. You obviously have a very important job in the magazine industry, but as you said yourself, you have a very positive, optimistic, vibe about you. And so I wonder, in the theme of this conversation, what are some ways that you manage a stressful job, and I'm sure a stressful day and week and life? What are some of your favorite ways to manage those responsibilities and that stress?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it truly gets to me, but stress and optimism don't live, they're not, one doesn't destroy the other. So I do feel like, even like right now, I'm fairly stressed because I have to run from here to someplace, like I didn't even know where I was going today. I was like wandering around, where's 225 Liberty, and I was stressed. But I was also happy and excited that I got to come here. So I think they live together. And I think stress partly is what makes me optimistic, because stress and excitement are related, So sometimes stress is just a major downer, but sometimes stress is anticipation and, the open door of something new. And so I think they can coexist for me. I wouldn't actually say that I'm particularly excellent in managing stress, but I am good at living with it. And maybe that's what optimism helps with.
Stress and creative energy
yes,
are often useful
combined.
Together.
If
there's not another, was there another question? I thought I saw one other one. No, it's hard to see. I have one other question, which is like, this is obviously a time of a lot of change for this industry. How do you deliver bad news to people?
Honestly, I think our organization is really good at transparency, and it's one of the things I work with Troy Young, who's the president of the magazine division, and it's one of the things that I have most enjoyed about working with him is that there isn't a lot of subterfuge or politics. It's just like you gotta face things head on, and especially when everything is changing so fast, you have to lay things out and look at them, and so good things and bad. And so I think as much transparency.
So if somebody brings you bad news, how do you deal with that?
It depends. Sometimes when people quit, for example, my first reaction is to shut them out because I'm pissed. If good people leave, you're bad. But I am working on that because I think actually you have to you can't let those kinds of things destroy you. And as a result, we've actually managed to hire back people in time if you're not crappy to them on the way out. So most of the time I try and think of it, there's like a sort of a good housekeeping approach, like problem, solution, And so I try and take that strategy and think about what's the creative way around this problem, or to make this problem less hideous or onerous or whatever it is.
Cool.
But sometimes I'm just like, wah.
So you're human.
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
If there's no other questions, I think we are out of time. I'm seeing our little red button.
Thank you so much.
Linking.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, guys.